Today we're with Sutej of Autograf Digital, and we're going to discuss things like the present situation of AI, the future of AI, why actually massive job loss might be a very powerful good thing for the advancement of small business. We're going to discuss how you can move away from a subscription lifestyle with all of these softwares you have to subscribe to and very simply make something custom for yourself using a concept as simple as Lego blocks, piecing things together. We're also going to talk about how AI is incredibly dangerous if you use it wrong and incredibly powerful if you use it right. And a lot of times what you're getting from AI is simply what you're putting into it. And we're going to discuss what that looks like. I'm Dennis.
And I'm Greg.
And this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast,
where we provide the tools for more profit and less stress in your business now so you can turn into a valuable asset later. Welcome to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. I'm here with Dennis Takema, as usual, and our guest today is Sutej Batth from Autograf Digital. Sutej, before we get into it, just if you can kind of briefly explain what is Autograf Digital, where are you located, and what geography do you service so people can kind of picture that as you're talking.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all. So we are located in beautiful Airdrie, Alberta. So Autograf Digital is a tech studio, is how I would explain it. It's taken me almost 2 years to try to put into words what I was trying to do. So I think it's a creative tech studio. We basically work with small to medium-sized businesses. We help them grow with custom tech, with end-to-end solutions, with some business advice, and sort of work in partnership with them, acting as a digital extension of their brand and hoping to help them with everything to do with technology and marketing.
But we're not dealing with security systems, that kind of thing, mostly just the digital aspect of their management, correct?
That's right. So think an app for a coffee shop to order ahead, or an app for a barbershop to have a custom booking experience for their customers. So not so much cybersecurity, but we run and manage everything on their behalf for them. So security does all of the security for everything that we run for them falls under our management as well, but not a service that we provide on its own.
So one of the reasons we were excited to bringing on the podcast was because the world of technology is moving so fast, and AI is the buzzword and AI is the thing. And we're going to kind of get into that secondary. But first, I thought it was really interesting how you had described to us this confusing, you take your average business owner and they look at all the software out there and it's like a big, I don't know, paint spots all over the wall, right? They're just like looking at everything going, what's this? And what do I need there? And how's it all tied together? And you had a really good way to sort of simplify that and make it understandable. So an average business owner can understand, because there are a lot of business owners that honestly don't even know how to turn on their computer. And that's a real thing, right? People could laugh at that, but that's a real thing. You know, I thought you had a great way of oversimplifying sort of how it all ties together and the way the business owner should picture that and what they should strive for. When you talked about stacks, I thought, go ahead and share your perspective on that. I thought that was great.
Yeah. So let me just tell you, first of all, how we got there. Throughout the last 2+ years of working with customers, we found a few common problems, first of all, that we found that they've had. So, for example, when we're working with any type of a client that needs some sort of a booking system, there are an unlimited number of booking system options that you could probably look at right now. And initially, when we were starting to look for solutions, we were looking for off-the-shelf solutions, something like Square or Squarespace or Acuity scheduling, and they work well. They obviously, there's been a lot of resources put behind them, and they do the job. But they are trying to be a very one size sort of fits all, because they're trying to obviously serve as many industries as possible. But on top of that, it's in their business model and in their best interest to not only give you that service, but then to also lock you into as many additional services as they can. So Square, for example, you might start with a booking system, which is all you're looking for as a salon, but maybe then you're looking for a point of sale system. They make it very convenient and it's easy. And for a certain segment of the customers or base of the small to medium-sized businesses, I'm sure that works great. It does everything that they might need. However, then they are almost locked into that ecosystem forever. It's no different than in our personal day-to-day lives, how Apple, has us locked in with, I have a Mac Mini that I'm running my computer on. I have an iPhone, right. and everything else. And it's just extremely hard to, I think I could say that about all of us here. And it's impossible to move now for me to even think about moving to Android, because how much work it would take. Right. And that's essentially what Square is trying to go after in the small to medium-sized space. First of of all, that's one downside. But before we even get there, when you're looking for a solution, when you're trying to find something, there is, as you said, there's an abundance of options. There's an overwhelming number of options that could solve your problem. And especially now when software development is a lot easier thanks to AI and all the other things that we'll talk about, the barrier to entry is a lot lower, and there's just more options now, an overwhelming amount, and it can be very hard as a business owner. So that was just the booking system example. But similar to that, there, as we were working with different types of clients, we figured that there must be some sort of a solution that's on the market that must be able to help them. But the problem still is the same, that every business is somewhat different. I'm sure that there are similarities, right? And there are patterns that we could find, and which is where this idea of stacks comes from. But otherwise, it's really hard to, you have to force your business to change, or you change your standard operating procedures, your processes to fit how a certain software is designed, rather than being the other way around, how it should be, and which is now possible. So that's where Autograf Digital comes in. When we started working with clients around these problems, we basically went to the drawing board, tried to develop our own solutions to as many things as we could. And in the process of doing that, we've identified some key blocks. You can think of them as building blocks, as Lego pieces that go into an overall stack that could help you run that entire business. How I would define this is basically by the different categories of businesses. So as an example, health and beauty could be one vertical, this one stack, everything from an intake form, a website where you actually show your brand, your social media, all the way down to taking the booking, and then below that actually having a system in place that lets you manage the scheduling between your staff and vacation approvals for your staff members, and manage health records for your clients, or everything else that goes in between, all the way through to then bringing the customer in, letting them pay for their service, and then having a way to stay connected with that customer once they leave, having the ability to bring them back, to be able to message them, let them know about promotions. Now, all of that is probably 20 plus different softwares if you are trying to
Right.
do it. 20 plus different subscriptions that you're trying to look after right now. And then the most painful thing of that is then trying to integrate everything, or trying to keep everything consolidated in a central database. So we're now looking at it is by working with these different clients, we were able to identify some key things, some of these Lego pieces that can be reused over and over again. And one of those things is like a booking system, for example. So that building block, if we look at that could be used in different verticals. So health and beauty being one. Under that could be massage parlors, barbershops. Another one could be quick service restaurants, which could include coffee shops and fast food chains. And they, instead of a booking system, they might need a mobile ordering app instead. But otherwise, the rest of the stack might look pretty similar. So essentially, the idea that for every business, this entire customer journey of discovering the business to then going through building trust and rapport with that business, having the technology in place to convert that lead, that visitor into a customer, to then keep bringing them back over and over again. If that entire process and that entire vertical, if that could be a custom solution that's built for every client, it's turned that idea around, that rather than them having to change their business to mold around existing software, right? Instead, they're all managing it, or we're building everything around however they would like to run their business. For example, like there are some barbershops or some salons that might have one type of commission structure with their staff. It could be a chair rental versus simple commission, or it could be just an hourly wage. And it could be a mix of all of them. It might take you forever to figure that out on Square, and then having your bookkeeper handle all of that after. Whereas now we can just design the software, the UI, all of that in a way where all of that is calculated for you, and you're just given the data that you need. So the work that we're now doing, working with you, is just in the very top layer, right? Just helping you design the UI, the UX, the experience, but the underlying structure of how everything connects with each other, all the tech stacks, right? They can just be used across these different verticals.
Boy, okay, so I want to go back to from the listener's perspective, and I'm going to say my own. So are you saying, let's say, if I were to make it simple and visual, there's this stack that reflects the customer journey needs. So let's say like there's a website and then some kind of CRM to communicate with the customer, and then booking system, and then an intake process, and then manage the customer process somehow, like project management. And then maybe there's inventory management. And then there's point of sale, which actually probably go above those. And then there's customer retention, like relationship. And then there's like a loyalty program. So there's all this stuff. Are you saying that you would go custom with all that? Or are you saying that in some of those blocks, there might be a off-the-shelf software that you would plug into the stack, but on the back end, a company like yours could make all of them communicate? Just bring clarity to that.
So initially we started with the latter option. So we initially were using third-party scheduling software and integrating all of them through custom automations and using tools like Zapier and N8N. But now we are exclusively just building all of these solutions in-house. So the entire booking system that I mentioned to you, with all the complexities, all the logic everything is like our lines of code being handled by us. And there are third-party services that we are using. So for example, Twilio is a messaging system that allows us to send confirmations and reminders via SMS when a customer book an appointment. So we are using those sort of platforms in the back to power the delivery of our service. But otherwise, we essentially have the full building block, that Lego booking system sort of fully built. And now we can place that for any one of our clients with a little bit of custom work on it to make it personal to their brand and to their company. This would include a custom customer-facing page with their own brand, with their everything according to how they would like it. And same thing on the internal side, with the barber would have their own app. The store would have an iPad app or a Mac OS app that they can. So everything will be custom essentially.
Wow. Okay. I want to stay on that point for a sec because, and I know we'll get into the discussion of AI because it's very relevant to this. But from the world I come from, before AI and things, like what you just explained would cost a fortune. Like we're talking
millions.
Yeah. Like corporations often can't afford to build what you're talking about. For sure. Small business could not afford to build what you were talking about. So the thought process, and anybody listening is probably thinking the same thing, is, well, I got to go buy all these off-the-shelf softwares and then hopefully, knock on wood, I can get them communicate together. But if they can't, then we'll just figure it out because it's affordable. So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying you can customize and build this, and I'm assuming I'm going to ask how you're able to do that. I'm assuming that's going to evolve to AI conversation. But like, are you shitting me? You can do all this affordably for small business now?
No, we absolutely can. So let me give you a little bit of my background. So I actually worked in management consulting. I worked for Deloitte Canada at their Calgary office, and I worked specifically within enterprise software. We worked on ERP and systems, Oracle and SAP implementation projects, and I worked as more of a project manager. But as part of that, I definitely saw how the scale of work and how resource intensive these things are. Some of these projects are hundreds of millions of dollars, and some of them ran for 12 years, like including their support period and everything. But these are 10+ year engagements. So it was absolutely impossible, and that was for a solution like SAP that already exists. Like it's a multi-billion-dollar ERP corporation that has existed for decades, and they have all the resources in the world to develop and to test everything. So you're building on top of that. You're just delivering, you're just implementing that. You're not even building anything custom. And if anything, towards the end of my career in that industry, there was a trend at that time to move completely towards out of the box. So SAP was discouraging any type of customization whatsoever. So that was something that I think was getting away from this idea. But I think right now it's possible for the first time, maybe small businesses or medium-sized businesses have an advantage right now because we're a little bit more agile. We can move quicker. And plus also the scale of change that is required to change our approach, right, is far lower, and the friction will be far lower. So I think that was also why I worked with these big clients, these multi-billion-dollar oil and gas companies. First of all, that wasn't very fun. Second, I also wanted to start with smaller clients where we could test these things and where to be honest, like these problems are solvable, and one by one we can keep stacking them. and eventually we will be able to build something. But to go back to your question, yes, absolutely, we can do this fully custom, and the reason we can do that is that 80% of the work, I think we now know, is it's all about, from a development standpoint, it's about the data, the architecture, the data, and how, where we're storing everything, how it's all interacting with each other. If we have solved that once, that's about 80% of the work done for us for every client. So for now, the front end work that we have to do, even that we will be able to it replicates 50% of it, because the actual structure of the booking page will stay the same. Like, this is the navigation bar, this is the barber page, this is the header bar, for example, and it's just like some things that we have to change. So we're trying to standardize, templatize as much as we can, but still with that goal being that these are custom apps that are built for your business.
Just one of the things I was going to comment as you were talking on, and I think a lot of people are seeing this now, is that if you're trying to run a business in any kind of a fashion, you feel like, or at least I start to feel like, I am enslaved by all of these subscription-based companies, and my margins keep disappearing, because now it's $100 for this one, it's $100 for that one. I've watched my Netflix price go up. I've watched my, like, even something stupid as Amazon. I know we're talking about corporate software, not TV software, but Amazon was, you're paying for your Amazon subscription to not watch commercials, turned into, well, now if you want to not watch commercials, you better pay us a premium. And I think people are seeing this even in operation or business softwares. It's like, we gave you this. Oh, but you had this premium option before that was included. But if you want to retain that premium option, now you better upgrade to the next level of a couple $100 or whatever it is. And it's just, I feel like in business, you end up in a situation where you're beholden to all these companies who are nickel and diming you to death. And they're really the only ones winning, where it sounds like you're trying to piece together a software that allows these small guys to actually start fighting back without feeling like they're being bled to death by 1,000 cuts.
Let me tell you a story of what led me here. Initially, we were just running a digital marketing company, and we were just running websites. And at that time, I had to make a decision that I could double down on marketing and build a solid SEO and web development and content team and help businesses grow that way. There was this article that I came across maybe end of 2023, beginning of 24, where there was a company in the US, I can't recall their name now, but they were paying something crazy like 300 or 400K a year just in Slack subscription fees.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
And because it ends up being something like $2 or $3 per user per month. And so for a large company, it makes sense. So that was around the time when AI tools were just coming out. ChatGPT had been about for about a year, and coding with like vibe coding was starting to gain a little bit of speed. But I remember reading about them that they spent at that time something like 800K or 1 million USD, and they were able to build their own sort of a mini version or replica of Slack to use within their company, dropping their annual usage cost from 400K to something like 30-40K. And within a year or two, they would have recouped all of their costs, and then it would just be pure savings after. So I remember thinking that okay, that this is maybe something to look at. So I think since then, this has been more clear to me that there is a cultural shift. There's a shift happening that first of all, custom software is going to become the norm. If not in the next 10 years, then maybe the next 20, 30 years, I think every company in the world is going to have custom software. There's going to be a new type of companies such as Autograf Digital that are going to focus on just this one new industry that's forming, I think. But otherwise, there's going to be all the big companies will have all of this stuff in-house. So a lot of the SaaS companies are in trouble.
I actually think you're projecting too far out. I don't think it's going to be 20 years. I think it's going to be a lot shorter than that, because I'm noticing this trend in business anyway, where you have the major corporations, yes, they're starting to buy up a lot of stuff, but now you're starting to see a lot more people going into the small business world, and they're kind of trying to incorporate back. So this pendulum you're talking about, I don't think is going to take as long to swing back to custom everything as what you're projecting.
Sutej, what you just said is literally the complete opposite of what's been happening in the last 10 years. Like it's almost like the race car hit the brakes, or the pendulum hit the brakes, and is just going hard back the other way, which is, like, anybody who's been in business for a while, that's like brain frazzling, right? Because it's been so, buy stuff off the shelf because it's going to be less expensive and help you compete with the big guys who are customizing. And now it's like, hit the brakes, it's going the other way. You can customize and be competitive. It's awesome. Like Dennis just said, I think I personally truly believe it's going to give small business that
a way better edge.
Yeah,
like a way better edge coming in.
Totally. Like, it's fantastic. And one thing I want to go back on what you said earlier, another thing I love about what you're saying is, like, I bump into this all the time, Dennis, you probably do too, where we want to get in with clients into different key performance indicators. So let's just call it measurable numbers, right? Whether it's average transaction or retention rate or inventory turnover, like stock to sales ratios, or whatever it is, how many times a customer buys per year, like all those kind of conversion rates, all those kind of numbers that are so important to make decisions. When you got a number of different off the shelf softwares, it's really hard to get those numbers, and it becomes a bit of a make work project. So then they don't try and get those numbers, not all of them. And now what I'm hearing...
You can never actually truly master that many softwares. Most people are going in there and they're downloading them and they're doing the stuff, but they're doing it to 10% of its capability because they don't have the time.
Totally. And a lot of them don't talk together properly. So then you actually can't get the number. So like what I'm
Sometimes
hearing
just getting to talk to my bank account is a nightmare for that reconciliation. Right. I can't imagine other softwares.
Totally. So what I'm hearing is now they can get these numbers. It could be set up where they can get them routinely, kind of at their fingertips. That's huge, because that gets into just better decision making, which becomes more profitable. Like, man, my brain's just spinning on this is an exciting opportunity for small business. Like I'm talking a ridiculously exciting opportunity for small business. Okay, so that leads to a question of, some people are excited about AI, some people are afraid of it. I guess there's a couple things to talk about. One, how AI, from what you said, it sounds like AI is really going to help you be able to do this for small business. So let's talk about that. And then maybe after that, let's get into your opinion of AI and different areas of life to lower some people's anxiety around AI, but also maybe bring awareness to some challenges or potential concerns with AI. But first, like, how's AI helping you with everything you just talked about with this stack situation?
In a lot of ways. So I think there's two things. So AI for sure, as a principle in the last 2 years, everything that has come out of AI, sure, that's helping a lot. Before that, I think there's also something else that has happened, which is sort of this open source movement of everything being open source. So as one example, there's open source is one way, I guess, of saying that. It's also the availability at scale of a lot of things that were behind very big numbers before, that were gate kept behind enterprise level access before. So such as a powerful
Sorry, before
database.
you go down that road, can you just quickly explain, what does open source mean?
Okay. So open source is, if you think of Android, that would be something that most people would be familiar with, perhaps. That Android is an open source operating system. If you compare that to iOS, which is on Apple's phones, that is not an open source software. So Android is essentially one project that was built by Google and then made open source, with their code being public, which is, let's say, the whole code base is on GitHub, allowing any third-party developer, someone like me or you, to then make a copy, a fork of that code, and build my own version of it on top. And that's essentially what Samsung does. Every year when they release their phones, like Samsung has their own version of Android. It's like, if you look at Android on a Google Pixel phone or Samsung, they look completely different. Is because, Samsung is using Android. However, they have their own functionalities, own layers built on top of it. And now at this point, 15, 20 years in, it's very, very deep and very developed. So they have their own fork of everything. So whenever now Google announces a new software, let's say Android 10.0 or whatever the newest version is, when that gets released, then Samsung has to create a fork of that new code base and then apply their changes to that. And then that's why it takes Samsung 3 to 4 months to release an update to their users after Google's update comes out. It takes time, right? Otherwise, on iPhones, everything's handled directly by Apple. They know exactly who the hardware
closed ecosystem, right?
That's right, yeah. So there's a lot of advantages to them for doing that. Android brings different advantages, but so if you think of Android as an example, essentially we're able to now do the similar type of stuff for a lot of different things, different functions in a business, development, running a company like the one I run now. There's a lot of things that are now very easy to access. So I'll give you a couple examples. For our database, where we actually store a list of all customers, a list of all transactions, which are different tables, for list of all loyalty program balances for every customer, like wherever that data lives, it would have been very hard for us to build a powerful database. And that's where SAP was so powerful. And that's why enterprises loved SAP ever since the 90s. They had their data tables and their T codes and take actions directly on these tables with these commands that people just knew at the back of their head by now having used SAP for 5-10 years. So in order to build functionality of that level, there were just no tools available maybe 10-15 years ago for a developer of my scale, of my size, to be able to bring that vision to life at that cost. But now there's an open source platform called Supabase. They use Amazon AWS as the underlying platform for storage, for all the hardware level stuff. Supabase manages, it's an open source layer that we can just add either on top of our own compute or storage layer. So that could mean I could run a server here in my own house and then just install Supabase on top of it. And then now I have a full platform where I can manage a powerful database. I can build apps on it. I can run API calls and like run SQL queries on it. And so that could either be on an on-prem solution, or I could rent my own AWS or Google Cloud instance and run that with this open source software or platform on top of it. Or how we run it is we just rent it directly from Supabase, where they even take care of the storage and the hardware level for you. So, and all that costs us to actually set up a client is like $15 USD a month for one client, and to have the actual setup done. And then after that, the compute costs and storage costs, of course, they go up from there. I think we have something like 30 or 40 different clients, different projects, and just to think about how much work that would have taken to get to that point is impossible to imagine. So that's just one piece of our process. That's just the database. Then we need communications, we need payment abilities, we need invoicing. There's all these different things that were very hard to get access to before or to create, right? And now that we've been able to do that, first of all, that's the first thing. And now AI, where AI has come in, is that we've seen all of these tools that I'm talking about, first of all, their development speed has accelerated a lot.
Crazy.
AI itself, of course, but then all of these tools, all these companies that are now using AI, all these open source platforms that are now using AI to develop their product further, they're killing it right now, right? There's a human toll to the labor loss, and that's a separate conversation. But I think a lot of the people that are not working on these closed systems from the tens of thousands of layoffs that are happening in the tech industry right now, like a lot of them, I think, are going to end up finding themselves in this ecosystem of this open source world, and this side is just going to continue to grow faster and faster. Right, as there's almost like a forced brain drain from these previous established players into this new space that's forming. So there's that. And then AI, the first order of effect of that would be that they are able to develop a lot faster themselves. But then in parallel to that, we as users of AI tools ourselves, our team is running so much more efficient and smoother than it would have thanks to AI. Like, for example, I have a team of 10 people right now, distributed all over the place. And I think I'd be fair to say that we're probably doing a pretty good job of running a company that would have taken about 25 people, maybe 15 years ago, maybe less. And we're running I can't remember what the number is now, or I haven't checked recently, but we're processing something like a few $100,000 in payments every single day for our clients, like through our apps. This includes bookings and loyalty redemptions and all of that. Like, this is real money flowing through the system that we've created, and that's for less than 10 people. And a lot of that is thanks to AI tools, thanks to these open source, the lowering of the barriers, thanks to a lot of these tools that are now available.
It's funny because you're talking about open source and closed source, and the way I'm looking at it is, number one, you've got a lot of closed source companies hire a lot of A players, a lot of people that are first place in whatever they do. However, when you look at athletics, there's a very small gap between a first player and a first place and a second place. So you have a lot of smart people that didn't quite make A player status, who are like, well, now I got to go play my game somewhere else, and they're latching onto this open source world where now you're going to have a lot more by percentage B and C players. Then you're going to have A players. So now I'm just kind of laughing to myself, because what you're talking about is this intentionality of using AI to minimize my workforce is going to come back and bite me in the butt, because I've got all these really smart people who are now all working on their own independent stuff. That's allowing us to grow organic AI. I'm not sure if that's the proper terminology, but organic programming in some ways faster than a closed-minded ecosystem. So it sounds like you latched on to, hey, wait a minute, these guys might be playing at that level, but there are so many leagues that we can attack that's below just the top. let's go play there and use the tools that are publicly available to make that happen.
That's exactly right. Actually, I think if anything, I think this side is just like you said, there's very smart people. And I think this side is
Some
growing
very
a
smart
lot
people.
more. And if we talk more, a little bit more about the business side, so I think there's something to be said. There's a case to be made, and I'm a believer in this, that there is going to be, within our lifetime, I think most of us, I think, are going to be working for ourselves, or I think most people on this planet, I think, will be. I mean, I don't know what that number is right now, but it'll be far higher than it is right now. I think there's just uh, a cultural. This is a once in a lifetime, I think, cultural phenomenon that we're that we're living through. At least 30 to 40% of the workforce is just going to be displaced just in the next few years as a direct result of AI. As that's going on, there's a lot of people like me who have sort of already jumped ship from the corporate world, from that side, how things used to be from the old guard, and trying to build our own way of doing things. And now that it's possible, I think there are going to be a few businesses especially that are going to do a lot better. I think anything that is community focused, anything that has any type of human interaction currently required. So as an example, now when we're advertising our SEO services and the content that we write for websites, we are specifically saying that this is human written content. And that has helped us, like that stands out now.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe 5 years ago, human written content wouldn't be something that you saw.
Right. You didn't even think about putting that.
Yeah, that's right.
I think, man, I think, Sutej, I think you just hit the nail on the head. This is the perspective you just shared, I think, is different. It's very much against the grain on what people are thinking. And the more I hear from you and talk to you, like, I agree totally. I think what you're talking about with building stacks, AI helping all of that, with it becoming affordable. Like, I don't know, I personally believe a lot of people want to support small business in their community. They want to, but there are varying reasons they can't, whether it's convenience or the small business is going bankrupt, first of all, or whatever it may be. But with AI, there's a whole different. I'm sorry, I'm just recapping what you're saying, but there's a very positive possibility here that AI is going to help. People are going to lose jobs corporately. I get it. They're going to go to small business, like you're saying. Totally agree. And community is going to want to support that. Where people are freaking out, AI is going to hurt small business. It actually, I think you're right, could be the total opposite. It could be this could be an opportunity for the people with the right mindset to really go after it. I love that. I love the enthusiasm there, and I get it. I get what you're saying. It's spot on.
Well,
It's so exciting, man. It's fun. Sorry.
Well, and what I'm hearing from you is basically along the lines of those that are going to engage in the game the way you are. It's the great equalizer. Like, I'm very, very hesitant to say that anything that's been done massively and corporately has been overall beneficial for everybody on an individual basis. I mean, you could argue there's one or two companies that, yes, maybe overall the net benefit has been overall good, but why is it that the small sandwich shop can no longer be the sandwich shop? Well, the owner has to be the booking, he's got to be the paying, he's got to be the scheduling, he's got to be all of that stuff, or I have to hire people. Well, if I got to hire people, my margins have to be higher. Well, now that my margins are higher, I can't compete with the big guys who's selling off half the food that I am at a lower price. And now what you're talking about is, with the stacking ability, this ability to create and move independent blocks of software to individual businesses, you can actually help them build out all of that harder stuff without requiring employees to do it, which instead of killing jobs is going to create a massive market shift, in my mind, of better quality stuff across the board. Because I don't have to go to McDonald's for a $15 burger when I can walk to Jim's sandwich shop and get a $15 sandwich of better quality for the same price, because Jim now has the same advantage McDonald's does. Or am I misunderstanding you?
No,
That's exactly
spot on.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it, Dennis.
Before we start this conversation, you're working on some projects right now, and I think you mentioned one of the areas that you're looking at is something as simple as a barbershop. Like, how's that coming together?
So the reason it ended up being barbershops was just that those are the only clients that I could get initially at that time. They said yes. They were just as confused as I was on how to build a booking system or how to find a booking software. I just used Acuity Scheduling, which is a product by Squarespace. So I just sort of did the role as a consultant or as a system integrator where I just helped them, just set it up for them and sort of ran it for them. But I did, that's not what I want to do. The type of experience that they wanted, the type of changes that they wanted, what they wanted, it just wasn't flexible enough. So we wanted to build everything on our own. So we started from there. So now about 18 months of work in, we now have a platform, and we're branding it as its own company, as its own product that we're going to set it up, and it's called Barbary, and it's going to offer a one-stop solution, almost like a turnkey solution, a business in a box for a barbershop, for anyone who is either already running a barbershop or wants to run a premium experience type of barbershop for their clients. And we come in and we do everything end to end, from your website, your Google Maps listing, to figuring out how to get you towards the top of the search results when people are looking for you on Google, to actually building the software and the apps that your customers will use to book services with you, to browse through your services, the apps that your company, your staff will use to manage their schedules, their breaks, their holidays, clock in or clock out, maybe anything that you can imagine. This is where all of your tips will be calculated. If you have different types of payment agreements with your staff, commission-based versus a chair rental versus hourly wage, we will factor that in. We'll build that for you so that at the end of the week or at the end of whatever your pay cycle is you will get the proper payroll report that you can then either send to your bookkeeper or your accountant to do the payroll. So essentially, everything that you need to get a customer into your shop, to take money from them, and then to make sure that you stay connected with them, keep bringing them back, and then everything you need to keep your staff in the loop, everything under one platform, designed custom for each client by our team. So that's Barbary.
It's like, yeah.
Greg, you and I talk a lot about things like systems, processes as checklists. And I've had clients fight back on something as simple as checklists. And my comment to them, well, a checklist is nothing more than a small tool you can use to release your brain to focus on higher function tasks. I'm not having to worry about all the details I may have missed while performing something. And it sounds like what you're building for the barbershops at this point, which is, I think, completely transferable to any industry once it's developed, is I now have a software that releases my brain to focus on the higher function tasks, because this software is doing what I need it to do, so I don't have to be up at my desk from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. doing the invoicing and customer follow-up and fire damage control and fixing a client missed system operating checklists or whatever else, because the software is intuitively tying into the different systems and uniforming that in a way that allows me to really focus on the service to my customer, not just how much money can I get from them with the least amount of pain possible.
Exactly it. And we're not just giving you another software and asking you to just, now, you handle it from here. Like it's a fully serviced solution for you. Like we're handling everything on your behalf. So you can actually, just like you said, focus on your business, on what you do best, which is the art of cutting hair. Like that's why you got into this business. You focus on that. Let us worry about all the digital stuff. And just like you said, this could be replicated for other things. So all Barbary, if you think about it, is this, going back to the stacks that we talked about, so this covers one vertical stack, the barbershop stack. So I would call the barbershop is part of or there's very similar stacks to barbershops, which could be massage parlors, hair salons, nail salons, and this system could almost be copy pasted for them with slight tweaks. So maybe this could just be so Barbary by itself is for barbershops, but maybe the overall health and beauty space, that whole vertical, this could be dealt with through the software. But similar to this, we can then change some components. Like instead of having a booking app, we could just have a mobile ordering app instead. And then a similar setup could also work for a restaurant or a coffee shop.
Right.
And then my goal is with this to then set these up as separate products with their separate sales teams and marketing teams that can talk to the pain points of that one field. Like, so for barbershops, for example, quick 30 seconds, I want to add something. Like one thing that I've realized working with different types of clients is first of all, how unique every person is, how unique every client is, their way of working is. But second, like I used to work at Walmart during my high school years. And I remember talking to some of the managers who had been there for 10, 15, 20 years. And first I noticed it there. Then I worked at some IT companies and then at Deloitte, that I always noticed that people that I worked with, because they end up spending so much of their life, so much of their time in these companies, in their careers, that their frame of reference, how they look at the world is very much shaped by their careers, by like their day to day.
Your
you know what?
identity, for sure.
Yes, exactly. Their identity. Some of my, accountant friends, for example, they're very methodical and very, focused on numbers. Some of my lawyer friends they look at the world through, black and white or, legal or, yes, through legalities.
Yeah.
And so barbers, since I work so closely with barbers, I also noticed that here that over the last 18 months, since I've been working closely with them, that this is their career. This is how they feed their families.
Mhm.
Like this is important to them, not just the business owner. It's the business owner that needs to enjoy this. This also is the end user who's going to be the barber, right? That's the staff member. So being able to talk to them directly and address the pain points that they have. So I think that's one benefit of having Barbary as an example or as an experiment where we can build out this very sort of slim down niche product for one very slim version of a vertical, so we can talk about just their pain points. Like, are your customers not coming back? Are customers looking at your Instagram stories but then not clicking on your booking link? Like something very so relatable that they could talk about. So we could have a full team just looking after that. And like that, we could then replicate that for restaurant space and for everywhere else we could think of. But, so this is just sort of the offshoot, maybe 30% of the company, but our main goal is still to build these custom tools, because that's how we learn. That's how we do our best work. Like Barbary wouldn't have happened if we didn't do the custom solutions for our barbershop clients first.
I had a client for a long time that ran a dog grooming school. And so then they invited me in a couple of times to do a business course. And you could tell, like, there's a lot of these that are these groomers that would love to just stay dog grooming, and they love the idea of running a business. And then you start bringing what's involved in running a business, and you kind of watch them all sort of like slink down or shut down or whatever else, because they realize that all of the stuff they have to do on the business side is going to pull them away from the art side of what they really want to get into dog grooming for. And I can imagine it's the same for barbers. It's probably the same for electricians. It's probably the same for anybody that picks a skill they want to get into, because Greg and I have discussed this a lot, and this is why one of the reasons you're working with Greg is the whole business side of a business is a completely different mindset than the performance of the art. So you're taking care of the hard stuff and letting them focus on the fun stuff, is what it sounds like you're attempting.
That's exactly it. And it's fun. And we're able to do it because we have done the work to sort of figure out the common patterns and figured out how to make it a lot more efficient than it would be if you were doing it on your own. Of course, it's not going to be fun. But then if we've made this one, if we've thought about it from the ground up and built it brick by brick and, put people in charge of some bricks and other people of some other bricks, that it's now sort of a system that will continue working like clockwork. Whereas before it was this tedious, mundane set of activities that you had to go through every week or every day.
I love it. I want to ask you some questions around what's scaring the average person about AI. But before I do that, where a lot of people are probably afraid of what AI is bringing and what it's doing to them, and a lot of small businesses are afraid of, I can't compete and corporations are going to kick my butt. I think everything we're talking about is super exciting for small business. And I think you hit the nail on the head. People in big business, corporations are going to start losing their jobs. But if they're entrepreneurial, they're going to want to go open their own small business. Awesome. Whatever it might be. Dennis and I firmly believe this, but your average small business owner is usually better at their product or service than the corporation. And the consumer likes that. Like his example, McDonald's and the sandwich shop. The consumer loves that. Except the average small business owner really doesn't know what they're doing with operating a business, like Dennis just talked about. So, what we try to bring to the table is that knowledge of business acumen so they can compete and make great decisions. But what you're bringing to the table, like Dennis just said, is just ease of doing business. So they can focus on being better. And then the community is going to love that. And they can compete in price then because their infrastructure is lower. So their expenses are lower. They can compete on the margins. Wow, man, it's actually it's an exciting thing to listen to in a world where a lot of people are kind of like, AI, it's going to do this to us. So on that note, I guess, where do you see AI going?
I think all the fears are overblown, way, way out of proportion. I think it's definitely going to be a big shift. And like we were talking about the effect on labor and everything, but it's not just AI, it's also a lot of other factors coming together. Maybe just the stage of capitalism that we're on currently, or the global state of geopolitics, or, there's a lot of factors to it. AI, I'm sure, is one of them. And it's a pretty big one, but it's not the only thing, right? And AI by itself, I think, is nothing but it's a huge net positive to the world in every way. Even at a philosophical standpoint, first of all, I was recently reading this article about how there's a difference between intelligence and language, that there is Like you can say the smartest things, but if you don't really know, if you don't really understand what you're saying, I'm sure we know people like that that can regurgitate, something that they heard once, but aren't actual experts on that topic or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a difference between language and intelligence. So I think the current version of AI that we all got excited about and talk about is everything that happened after ChatGPT in November of 2022. That's all LLM. So first of all, from a philosophical standpoint, we don't know if there's no AGI or anything. I don't think anything anytime soon. It's just a language thing. At this time, ChatGPT, Claude, all of these are just tech demos. They're chatbots designed for all of us as consumers to try them out. And of course, they were amazing and they were revolutionary at the time when they first especially came out. So we have 100 million users in like 5 days. It was crazy. But that was all just a way to I think the real target has always been enterprises and government contracts. No wonder these are just free tech demos essentially to get people used to that, to establish some of those behaviors and some of those design principles and usage patterns that rather than Googling, by default, I'll chat GPT something or I'll ask chat, like changing those behaviors. They're working at these corporations, at these governments. It's very easy for these governments to then sign on because their users are already experts on the product. So I think, first of all, LLM, I think it's not as scary of a thing that by itself. But of course, with everything else that we talked about, there's a lot of changes coming. But I think AI gives us a reset, a tool. It's an equalizer to someone who's willing to step up and really use what it brings. People have social media, for example, when it came out, there's people who waste 10, 15 hours a day on social media just watching what's called brain rot content. But there are also people who are running multi-million-dollar businesses on social media. So it really does depend on how you use it. It's at the end of the day, it's a platform at the highest level of significance and scale. But it's just another platform that will. Dennis and I talked about this before, that it'll reflect what you do, right? It's a mirror
You'll
to
get
your
back on what
behavior.
you put in.
That's right.
Right? It gives you more of what you're looking for. And I guess on one side of it, yes, AI has the potential to destroy the world. On the other side of it, AI has a massive potential to enhance the world. It's just going to depend on how many people let everybody else make the decisions for them. Like I've noticed in my own life that the more I've used AI, the less I actually enjoy it, because at this point and maybe, we're listening to this in the end of 2025, and who knows if we're going to listen to this in 2 years and I'm going to change my mind. But right now I found that arbitrarily using AI is no different than arbitrarily using Google. You're going to get whatever answers are the aggregate of the average. Whereas when you really start breaking down the tool and giving it actual directions into what you actually want it to do, it massively shortens learning and stuff like that. So in my own world, I use AI specifically on the research content because it can consume more content, but then I have to openly challenge it on its results to find out what's true or not. I don't just take it at face value. So now you have an AI that allows guys like yourself to software fast, write faster, give it better direction, help you promote and work with businesses faster. Or you got the other side of it where people just get dumber because they get way too dependent on it and they don't think. So it's in a lot of ways, it's an equalizer. It gives you the same advantage as it gives Apple, and it gives me the same advantage of brain rot if that's what I want, because it's giving me back what my inputs are.
I think I can tell you I talk to people a lot about this as well. I'm sure you guys do. The AI fatigue is real. Like people are tired of hearing about it now. It's not as exciting as it was. It's and if anything, people, like, if the M dashes, for example, I'm sure you've heard about that whenever you see an M dash, that's just an immediate turn off that this is written by ChatGPT. In our business for like SEO and everything, we are now promoting human written content a lot, and that resonates well with people, and that's exactly what we do. We actually have a human copywriters who do this, and we definitely use ChatGPT for our research and to figure out what is the right thing to say here. But the actual, like, putting the digital pen to paper is done by a human. And I think that's not going to be just something that's limited to us. That's everyone will be doing that. When people actively reject an automated, initially when I started experimenting with the AI and stuff, one of the first products that I started offering was a chatbot. There was a car wrapping company that I set up a chat bot with, and it was just not a good experience. As much as from a technical standpoint, the bot was perfect, but user behavior and there's a lot that you have to wrap your head around, and it just
Humans
doesn't
are
work.
still humans. humans, and they'll always do what you don't expect them to do.
Absolutely. So how we had it there was it was sort of like this general catch-all type of bot where it was one agent that could read their Instagram messages, Facebook, TikTok, and there was a chat widget on their website. Whenever someone would message, it would all go into our central CRM where the processing would happen and it would send a message back like our bot would. And we found that that's not going to work because of the human interaction part of it. That I think that I'm pretty set on this now that anything that requires human interaction, AI is not going to work there. Like, all these experiments with drive-throughs with AI order takers, I don't think they are going to stick around. I think
And
they're
people
maybe,
don't like it. The
yeah.
user doesn't
The
like
user
it.
doesn't like it. Whereas when you're using a kiosk, yeah, kiosks work, right? Like when you the McDonald's kiosk when you can order things
Right.
yourself, they
Yep.
work because that it requires interaction with the customer has to touch like a design that was designed by a human. They're at least interacting with something. Whereas the voice bot just sounds too generic. I think so. That was a lesson that I learned from there, and now the way we're implementing these type of solutions. So this is a good example of what you're saying as well, Dennis, that it really depends on how you apply this. So it's the same concept of a chatbot, but instead of applying it in that application I told you, instead, as part of the Barbary setup now, we have it applied at a very small section. So now after a customer makes a booking and then they get a text message confirming their appointment, they will get a little note saying, if you need any changes or if you need any help, let me know. Then if the customer replies back, I want to change my appointment, then the agent kicks in and it can say, no problem. Your appointment is with barber number one. He's available tomorrow at this time instead. Does that work? If the customer says no, next week, the agent can help him with that. But it has a very limited set of responsibilities.
It sounds like more of a support function it works in
Yeah.
versus a decision-making, take initiative function.
Yeah.
From the
That's a good
customer's
point.
perspective. Yeah. No, I love
That's
it.
a
I
good
think
point.
that's great.
Yeah,
Well,
because we have guardrails very clearly, right? That if the barber has a break at that time, that is not show it as unavailable. If there's a booking already at that time,
Right.
show it as unavailable. If the store is closed at that time, so it's following a very linear sort of logic that if all of these are checked, then the answer is no. So
Right.
that's why that works.
Yeah, and that saves time. That saves expenses because I totally get it. But where a decision's got to be made or initiative's got to be taken, you're probably going to need a human. And the customer just gets pissed off.
That's right.
Like, I know when
Yeah.
I'm dealing with those, I'm just like now you're just dragging this out and you're making me mad. Like, let me just talk to somebody. Other than what we've talked about with AI and maybe some fears or whatever and opportunities, what do you think? What are some big fears people have about now? Keep in mind, the podcast is more about business, so let's keep it on a business sort of subject. But what are some fears we haven't talked about that maybe people have or apprehensions about AI that you could maybe debunk? Like, and there might be none. You might just say we've talked about everything we should talk about. But is there anything we haven't talked about that's like a fear you could debunk with AI with regards to like business owners and staff and that kind of thing? Is there something we missed?
I think maybe something will come to me. But one thing I think I can say in general, I think any type of new development always leads to a lot of panic and anxiety, especially, and we've never gone through this level of a transformational
Right.
change, first of all. And then second, we've lived through a time like this where everything is so connected, where something happens in India and I would hear about it, in seconds. Like that we've never, and that will be followed by something else that just happened in Africa. And then I'll hear about an update on the war in Russia. Like we're just being bombarded by, all this from everywhere. So the anxiety levels are, high because of a few different factors. But I think in general, whenever I think something like this comes, it's always uneasy. At first, I think humans are so resilient, right? We've done everything to build this beautiful life, this beautiful world around us. We'll be fine. We'll handle this.
Love it. I love the optimism. Okay, so then I got a question around, this is something I'm experiencing, it's clients or friends or just people I know, what I see. And I'd like to hear your opinion of this. More importantly, maybe I'd like to hear almost advice you would give to people that might be going through this and not even realizing they're going through this situation. So I'll explain what I see people going through. If you could give some advice on maybe how they can be self-aware of that or do things differently. But I'm noticing people are getting so quickly reliant on AI for many different things, like taking meeting notes or building budgets for their company or spreadsheets, or just like it's like boom, like I'm being a little sarcastic here, but they hit a button and it builds them a business plan.
Yeah.
Or they hit a button and it records a meeting, which means they don't have to pay attention. But then what I'm noticing is like it'll record the meeting notes. It'll give them all the notes from a 2-hour meeting. They don't pay attention. They get a summary. Whether they even read the summary or not, I don't know, because in some cases, I don't even think they read it. I think they almost think like having the summary means the job's done, which is kind of weird. Like I'm just seeing so many things. Like I've seen cases where they take like, they'll get an AI, whatever, something to link their bank accounts to some kind of spreadsheet to build a budget. And they're just relying on whatever came out of that's the best answer. Like I'm seeing it stopping them from, excuse my language, but fucking thinking. So that's a big concern I see. So what advice would you give to people who are just like, I'm going to get AI to do brush my teeth and everything. Now, brushing the teeth might be a good thing because maybe it'll do a better job. Who knows? But I'm like a toothbrush with a camera might actually do a better job than a human. So that was a bad example. But what advice would you give on that? Like, what would you say to people? What are the warning signs to look for? Here's what I would suggest, that kind of thing. But
I'd say,
and by the way, you might disagree with me too. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'd say let them learn the same way I did. Let them deal with the repercussions of being lazy and copying and pasting content over. I got in trouble for it at my job first when it was first coming out. And then with the chatbot idea that I was telling you about, getting to about 70-80% completion is very easy. Like even when you're vibe coding, for example, when you're building an app, you can write a prompt like, I want to build an app to compete against my friend of who works out harder over a week. So let's say you come up with that idea. It'll get you to about 70-80% of completion within seconds. But then the next 10% is going to be pretty difficult. But then the last 10%, I challenge you to try to get that app live for me. You will not be able to figure it out because it is so hard to get that last 5-10% of the issues worked out. It's impossible. So I made the same mistakes. I thought like getting with a prompt that it was complete, but really it was at about 70-80% completion. Tried to go live, maybe affected one of my clients at the time, and ended up affecting that relationship. So I dealt with the consequences, and now I know not to do that. So I'd advise everyone to do that. Like there's for sure going to be a lack of quality, and because it's not complete yet, it's only at about 70% completion. Any type of content you're looking for with the help of AI, whether it's written, it's a script, it's video, and like for example, we were just working on an app this morning, and we've been able to. It's been at the same state that it was about 6 weeks ago, but we've done so much work. We've resolved a lot of issues. We've done a lot of behind the scenes work, and that's all we've been doing for the last 6 weeks. But you would not be able to tell from the actual looking at the app that we've done anything, because it's all behind the scenes stuff. But whereas but that I would say is only about 10% of the work that initially I thought was only like 10%. That's just about like setting up the data tables and making relationships between a customer and bookings. Like I thought that was easy. But now because we're having to do all of that, like AI would never be able to. There's just no way. So I challenge anyone to try to like vibe code or something and try to see like how far they can get with it. And then it's a good exercise to really see that it's not like there's a lot of things that are missing in any type of output.
It's a nice assistant, it's not the doer.
Yeah.
And great for brainstorming. There's no better partner for brainstorming, for idea generation. I think even it's helped me in my meetings, in my sales meetings, when I'm brainstorming an idea. Sometimes it comes up with things that I would never have thought of, that I for sure would not have thought of. And that has made a material impact on my business. It has affected my decision making. And then on top of that, it gives me some talking points that I passively pick up as I'm interacting with it. And then when I go and when I'm in a sales meeting, for example, sometimes things come to me that were about a different client or about a different topic altogether, but it definitely helps you. So, but then again, all of that keeps coming back to how you use it. It really does depend on how you end up using it, and you can't. So to recap all of that, Greg, no one should be doing that. This is not a foolproof solution in any way.
And maybe the solution is, or the answer is, and we've sort of kind of said it different ways today, but the answer maybe truly is you need to educate yourself in whatever subject you're using AI for, whether it's just booking a calendar, whether it's building a budget, whether it's trying to come up with a recipe for how to make the best tacos. I don't know, whatever it
Writing
is.
marketing content,
Exactly.
whatever the
Exactly.
average normal person will be using it for.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever you're trying to do, sounds like the best solution is educate yourself so you know like what you're trying to accomplish and what the important part of the recipe of what you're trying to accomplish is. Like, I'm trying to make tacos, it has to taste good. Or I'm trying to build a budget, it has to be profitable. Or I'm trying to write marketing content, it's got to generate leads. Like, and kind of know at a high level, like educate yourself to be an expert on what you're trying to accomplish, and then use AI to really fast track the work. It's a tool. Sounds kind of like the overlying thought that should happen, versus I think like what I'm going to be honest, what's pissing me off that I see with people, and it doesn't affect me, but it affects them, is they try to use AI for the answer. Like, they don't try to understand the subject themselves. So they trust AI's answer is like the answer. And man, that could be dangerous. I know Dennis and I both do this, but I test AI all the time for important business questions. And I get mad when I see the answers. I don't get mad because it's giving me bad advice. I get mad because I know it's giving other people bad advice, and that's freaking awful.
I know.
So
it's like, I think a good analogy for this is almost like a combustion engine. That AI is essentially a combustion engine, but you sitting in the car, you still have, and you need to have control over the steering wheel, the brake, the acceleration. It'll help you go from point A to point B really fast. But if there's a wall in front of it, or if there's water, like, you need to figure out how to swerve around it, or how to navigate around it. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, it's good. I love that. Very cool. Anyway, I think and I'm completely repeating myself, but what excites me about this conversation we just had is, I think for small business, which is what we're about and what this podcast is about, I think it's about shifting the view to, this can be exciting. Like, understand what a stack is. Like, okay, boom, I get that now. Like, okay, I need this, and it's going to help me compete. Awesome. Okay, AI is going to supplement that. Awesome. And now there's an opportunity for, and you said it, for people losing their jobs. If you're entrepreneurial, go start a business. And at the end of the day, and this, I don't know, I'm thinking out loud right now, but what went through my mind earlier when you spoke about people losing their jobs in corporations and starting small business, it flares off in my brain. I'm like, holy crap. If corporations invented AI to, I don't want to sound like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat here, but let's say corporations invented AI to help accelerate, crush small business. Let's pretend for a sec is one of the reasons. They might have actually just created something that's going to do the opposite without even realizing it, because this actually could end up being a great thing for small business that allows them to compete with corporations and potentially win. And we don't mean, I don't think any of us think that corporations should fall off the map, but I think at the moment, where there used to be a good mix in the world, now corporations are big and small businesses, disappearing. We need a balance for the community to thrive, right? Like, we need that. I think anybody in the community would agree with that. We all want that kind of cottage industry, like, ooh, that homemade sandwich instead of the McDonald's burger, or whatever it is, right? Or to go to a barbershop that's like your local barbershop and they do a good job, versus you walk in and stick your head in a machine that goes bzzz, and you walk out, because that's probably coming with the corporations, right? Like, you pick your picture and it just bzzz. So that's not fun, right? I mean, you might try it once and whatever. Like, I don't want to be, I get it. Hey, driverless cars are coming. Everybody's like, it's going to be so fucking exciting. I'm not right. They're here, but I like driving my car. It's fun. And by the way, I think it sucks that stick shifts got killed, because part of what's fun about driving a car is shifting gears. Like, I freaking love it.
That's
I love
right,
that feeling of like, you boom, next gear, high RPMs, and like, I love that. Going to an automatic was crap for sports cars. I think that was a freaking bad idea for the experience. I'm talking about the experience. Yeah. So anyway, I'm on a rant, but I love it. I think it could be really exciting. This tells me AI might provide something for the world that we didn't see coming, and small business should be excited.
And I think one interesting thought I'd like to share, something I've been thinking about. I don't think this. I think this is just the natural course of how it was supposed to go. I don't think like corporations are like losing out on anything, or they're going to be on the losing side of this in any way. Actually, I don't know if I fully agree with the premise of this, but one thing I was exploring this idea recently, that the Roman Empire never really went away, that they
Sure.
just became the Vatican Church. That the British Empire, which ruled the world, never really went away, that they became the city of London, which now controls the financial structure of the world.
And they're their own
That,
country. They're their own
yeah,
thing.
right. So
That's
they didn't go away. Like those centers of power, or their influence, it didn't go away. It sort of elevated to a platform level where now, like, they weren't involved in the day to day. Sort of they are now running the show, and now other people are doing what they were doing before. And then similar to the British government isn't controlling India and Canada and Australia separately, but because through their financial structure, they're still benefiting from
a
whatever
real
happened.
thing. Yep.
Yeah. So similar to that, I think this is a natural course, an actual step for corporations that I don't think they're going to go away. It's just that they're sort of elevating to this platform level now, where they will be running these APIs and these, like iPhone, like Apple as a platform, or sorry, Amazon as a platform, right? Like allows us to easily sell products. Like
Yep.
it's just a collection of platforms where we're able to trade with each other to sell products, services,
Yep.
entertainment, interactions. And I think, yeah, so just something I've been thinking about.
No, that's intuitive. Most people have no clue about what the city of London is, so that's very intuitive what you just said. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I get they're kind of almost opening up the playground for small business to play in a way that they can still reap the benefit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Makes sense. Okay, Sutej, we're excited about this potential for small business you've been talking about, like really excited. Oh, from a small business owner's perspective who's just heard all this and gone, okay, all that sounds great, but things that are too good to be true are usually too good to be true. So, it's probably going to cost me $100,000 to build this stack. I'm not even going to inquire. So I guess a couple questions. One, just kind of ballpark range, because I understand every situation is different, but well, there's probably two price points to this stack. One would be if it's customized. The other would be if you're building a vertical for an industry, then you can leverage that and go at scale. It'd be more affordable. So there's maybe two different price ranges you can talk to there. And then the other one is how long would it take? And then I think the third one would be if I'm a small business owner listening to this, I'm like, I want this, and I want it right now. So the third question would be, how do they reach out to, say, your company? Because your company is a company that can build these. How would they reach out to you and start that inquisitive process?
Yeah. So I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So we have, Barbary, which is a separate platform just for barbershops. We're experimenting with the pricing there because that's going to be a little bit of a mass market product, something that we can advertise a lot more. So playing with the pricing, but it's going to be more appointment based, I think. We can cover that one separate. For anyone who's looking for custom sort of services, we have two categories, just like you said, if it's something out of a stack that we've already built, or like a module that we've already built, a Lego brick, a building block, whatever we want to call it, a booking system being one of them. So if what you're looking for is a booking system for your service-based business, or home service-based business, any type of service requirements or booking requirements that you have, we can get that done for you pretty quick. That would take like a few days to set up. If it's something like a loyalty
And sorry,
program,
before you continue, what I'm hearing is, so the original stack we talked about today that has kind of everything, someone can buy the whole stack, or they can buy whichever blocks of
absolutely.
that they need, and you'll piece those
Yeah.
together. Okay, which could just be one block. Okay.
Yeah. So
Very
for
cool.
some of our customers, for example, there's one of my customers. He just needed a way to run their social media. They have 5 or 6 different social media accounts. They needed a way to centralize everything so they could post from one screen. I got them set up with a social planner, for example, and that's sort of a custom layout that we built for them. So it could be something as minimal as that. But the beauty of this is that once we set up your system and your setup with us, even though you only have one small brick or one module that we've set up for you, we are now set up to install any other add-ons or bolt-ons, or any other modules that you can think of.
As
They are
needed.
seamlessly integrated. Yeah, as you
Nice.
scale, like for example, after that, once you have a booking system in, now you're thinking of adding a loyalty program. Like we have all that covered. Now you want a point of sale system. Yeah, we can connect that all together as well. And point of sale system as well, going back to a little bit about open source and how now technologies are going, one level above. Square and all these companies, for example, their business model is different. They are trying to get you to run the whole operation with them. Whereas now there are other providers like Stripe, for example, where they have built this beautiful platform with very powerful APIs, where now we can build our own infrastructure and simply just rely on them for that very last piece, which is to actually process the payment. Like we're not paying any monthly subscriptions to them, any extra fees to handle our inventory or to manage all of that. That we're doing all of that through our own custom built solutions. But for that one payment piece, we rely on them because they do billions of dollars worth of transactions every day, and they've
Right.
done enough testing, and they handle all the security, and they handle all the transfers to the client's bank account. Like we don't have to think about any of that. So because of things like this, it's so there are all this to recap is that there's going to be some components that will be ready to go live like this with overnight. Some that will start with one, we'll be able to add more, and in other cases we have pre-built solutions which work more like subscription products. So Barbary is going to be one of those. So that you as a barbershop sign up today, that you'll be live by tomorrow. Like you'll have someone reach out to you and set everything up for you. Similar to that, we have one other product called Auto Reward, which is like a loyalty program. So it works across every single industry, and that also is a product that you click one button, sign up, and you'll be set up within a day. So that's in terms of the timing. Now for price, it depends on again how many of those things we're going with. On average, a CRM system starting at something like $300 to $400 a month, but there's no build costs or anything. So it's entirely service based. There's no commitments. That's something that I think is going to be very core part of this new economy. I think we're going away from contracts and agreements. That it's going to be more honor based and convenience based subscriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you kind of have to earn.
I think maybe the way to summarize the answer would be, I remember going through this exercise with a client, give or take 5 years ago. So not that long ago, where they wanted to build like a very kind of customized, we'll say app that had a lot of moving parts in it. And as we went down that path and researched different companies that do development, I mean, at that time we were talking a couple $1 million to build this thing they wanted, and they hit the brakes. They're just like, this is crazy. Now, just 5 years later, which to Dennis's point was where you talked, hey, 10 years from now, we might be in this situation. I think Dennis is right. We might be in this situation a couple of years from now. But now sounds like for somebody like that, this could all be done for way less money. So anyways, I just want to say it sounds like in a nutshell, the answer is where it's
Depends what you need.
been very expensive in the past. In today's world, you're able to do this for like literally fractions of the cost, which is phenomenal. If a business owner learns what important numbers they should be tracking or functions they should be doing. So let's just use this quick example. A lot of inventory management software is out there for any company doing inventory, whether you're a manufacturer, a wholesaler, a distributor, a retailer, whatever it is, and you got inventory. Learning how to manage your inventory can make or break your business. And most inventory management softwares off the shelf don't do a very good job of understanding an efficient way to do reorders, like proper stock to sales ratios, where you can pick so many weeks of inventory. I want to order this many weeks based on this history, without getting all the details, but stuff like that. And I know that becomes very customizable. So then they go to that software provider and, oh yeah, we can do that. It's an extra, $20,000 or $100,000 or whatever it is, just to add that one feature. It sounds like in today's world, like you can add that for more affordable price. And like I know of one example where we integrated a formula like that, and that formula literally saved each store about 16 hours of work per week. Oh, wow. Just by having all that automated. I mean, Are you kidding me? That's like, and if you can do stuff like that, I mean, that's world changing to businesses. Now they have to know what to look for to come to you to say, hey, I need this. And, that's what we do with our clients. Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is, love you shared all this information with us. It's really cool.
It starts with a conversation, but it sounds like at the end of the day, the price is It's not what you would think it would be to put something in more custom. And I think as the years go by and as the stacks get built, it's going to become less expensive. However, the advantage for people that are starting it now, they're going to be further ahead of the curve than people that start 5 years from now. So even though it's a bit more, everything's always a bit more pricey in the beginning. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. But those that decide to engage with a program like yours early might spend a little bit more, but their advantage in the market is going to be massive because they'll be so far ahead of the curve.
And by the way, they actually may still be here 5 years from now versus not.
Mm-hmm.
So Sutej, thank you on behalf of Dennis and I, but maybe more importantly on behalf of small business owners watching this, because I think actually, like I've already said, what you talked about is exciting, right? Paints a different light, sheds a new spotlight on AI and the excitement and this concept of building stacks and helping small business. I think it's awesome. So thank you very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. It's been it's been fun discussing all these ideas. Greg, you and I discussed this slightly before, that there's a huge disconnect between just the tech world in general, or people who are very technical, who are experts in their field, subject matter experts, and the world of business. All the value that you guys provide from the business standpoint, it's invaluable. First of all, I've been following along. It's helped me obviously understand my business better, but more importantly, like understanding categorization, like compartmentalization of my business. I think that was the biggest thing that I didn't understand that before. And so it's just a good reminder that there can be so many different gaps that you need to fill in order to really get a full picture, right, of what's going on in your business. So from your standpoint, you guys are doing that. And then from my tech standpoint, like, I'm hoping to fill that similar type of gap, that, come in as their trusted advisors, as the experts on this, and you let us handle all of that. And, you work and focus on your business.
Love it. So our producer, Sandra, has given us, as usual, at the end, a couple of questions, like personal questions, to get to know the three of us better. So question number one is, and I'm just going to go on based on my screen order. So Sutej, I'm going to start with you. What was your go-to pretend job as a kid, and how does it connect to what you do now?
Go-to pretend job?
Yeah. So as a kid, what kind of career were you pretending you wanted to do when you played growing up, I guess? And how does that connect to what you do now?
So my dad is a doctor, and so he expected me to go into the medical field. So they were expecting me to probably go that direction. I would say I wanted to be a businessman. That's what I thinking back, like as far back as I can imagine. That's always been the only thing that I wanted to do. I had everything else was negotiable, but I wanted to just be in business.
Cool. Love it. Very cool. Dennis?
Not even related. When I grew up, I always wanted to be a cop, but I blame that on the Lethal Weapon movies. I thought being a cop was being the guy from Lethal Weapon and running around and living that cool lifestyle. I had no idea it was sitting at a desk and writing reports and having to deal with drunks and stuff all the time. So when I realized what being a cop was really about, I backed out of that field completely, and it's got literally nothing.
Hollywood.
Yeah. From there, I got into running my own, like starting my own businesses, doing that kind of stuff, and I'm here now. But this is literally nothing like being a cop.
I'd say I'm similar to Sutej. I when I was really young, wanted to be like a pro athlete. And then as I got into my teenage years, I wanted to be in business. But back to the pro athlete part, I think what's relevant to today is just, I don't know, every sport I've ever played, whether it's a kid or even as an adult competitively. I used to play in the national championships for slow pitch. And if we're down by 12 runs with one inning to go, I still think we can win. So I think that has always helped with the attitude going into business. Doesn't matter where you're at, what's going on. There's always here's the path out, because I think most people aren't willing to do that. Okay, second question. Sutej, to you first. What's the worst haircut you have ever had?
Probably a buzz cut. And this is when I was probably about 45 pounds heavier. So it was just round, just a circle. So I'd say probably that.
So it wasn't the haircut, it was the timing of the haircut.
Yeah,
I think so. And I think this was that's the main reason I have a beard now, to add some definition to my...
Right.
I can say I'm trying to visualize it. With that beard, you would look like a totally different guy with a buzz cut.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, this is...
I don't know if I've ever had a really bad haircut, because if I did it, it's always been intentionally to myself to try to figure things out. And I've always made the comment to my barber of, if it sucks, I'll just shave it off, because I've got a head where I've gone buzz cut a lot. But I would say one of the worst decisions I ever made was to have I had an unkept beard. and so it was like all furry everywhere. And then I shaved the top of the head, so I looked like a homeless Eggman. Like I went right dick bald just to see, and I thought it looked good until I'm looking back at pictures and trying to figure out why I ever went that direction. But
if you did that in 2020, you could get away with it because you hide it with a mask.
sure, I don't think I could ever get away with it. It was anyway.
So for sure, mine is based on my age. Like I was in the 70s as a little kid, where I think the average mom, because they were busy doing whatever, it made it really easy for their little boys. You grab a bowl and you stick it over their head and you just fucking cut around the bowl. Yeah. Like what were they? What? And my mom's creative. She's an artist. She's creative. And she gave me a freaking bowl cut. What the hell?
Some things parents do for themselves, Greg.
Oh. Jeez.
I would do that to one of my children.
The good news is you go to school and you don't have to feel bad about it because every other little boy has a bowl cut.
There you go.
That's true.
Hey, Sutej, thank you, buddy. That was awesome. Really appreciate it.
Sir.
We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
It's great. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment or review if you're feeling generous. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, take care.